we finna watch this video on Sheduer Sanders explaining the NFL's first case of mass delusion.
Week 3 of the preseason, and the Browns have just finished up their final drive against the Rams with Tyler Huntley traversing 46 yards in 2 minutes to set up a short chip shot field goal. And while for 31 teams, the end of the preseason is pretty negligible, what was about to happen for the Browns may be some of the biggest, most dramatic overreactions the internet has seen. But to explain how a 5th round quarterback picking up reps with the 3rd string offensive line and wide receivers is even a story, we are going to have to go back because there are a lot of factors to this.
I'm gonna be honest
speaking
with y'all.
of factor, like
I'm gonna keep it a bean with y'all. I don't think Sheduer is good enough to be a starter at this very moment. Can he turn into one? Yeah. I don't think he's a starter right now. I was never too high on Sheduer even when he was in college, just me personally, but you know, to each their own, you know. My style of QB is not what he I'm sorry, y'all. What he has.
are you tired of all the factors that go into having a healthy lifestyle? Like after you get done working and taking care of the kids and being an awesome dad, you still have to go and cook yourself a meal? Well, do I have
We do not do sponsors around here, brother.
so much easier, and you're gonna thank me later. So to
You're
get the
gonna
full
thank me
context,
later.
let's take you to the end of the 2024 season. The Colorado Buffalo had seemingly completed their transformation under Coach Prime, and if you take away what the media was hyping them up to being, taking this Buffalo squad and giving them a full makeover to go from a bottom of the barrel team to being one lucky break away from actually being in the conference championship, well,
Here's what I'm gonna say. People talk about, yes, going from 2-10 to what did they go? They lost 3 games. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 9-3. Great feat. Great feat. Great feat. But they beat no ranked teams. The first year they were losing like shit. They were getting their ass spanked. They didn't even win a bowl game. All the hype that is built around these niggas is too much for me personally. Just because they didn't do shit. You can't sit here and say anything has been accomplished. Because Colorado, like, nothing has been accomplished in my opinion. Did they do? They better than they are, but nothing has been accomplished.
still being able to go bowling, while technically a step down from the apparent playoff run they're supposed to go on, is still a pretty impressive feat nonetheless.
I don't think they were ever making the playoffs.
Team and making the headlines was none
I don't
other
think they was ever
than
making the playoffs.
standout athlete Travis Hunter. But who was throwing to him, you may ask? It's of course the man of this video, Sheduer Sanders. Now, Sheduer at this point was already sort of a controversial figure. He hadn't really done anything wrong, but his detractors would claim he wasn't that good and carried himself with too much confidence for what his apparent draft position really was. And the reality is, those guys didn't watch the tape or his interviews. No, his supporters saw him under a completely different light. He was an underappreciated gem. He had the poise to turn around an inferior team while throwing to nobodies.
I think Sheduer, he was who he was. He's a very good college player. But he's not on the level of even a Drake May. He's not even on the level of a Bryce Young. You feel me? He's not on the level. I ain't gonna lie, this whole class was just pretty this whole draft class was pretty when it comes to QBs. I just don't think he was insanely talented how motherfuckers think he is to come in and be a day one starter. He wasn't a Trevor Lawrence.
A Heisman winner and a couple of draft pick wide receivers, that's all. Jokes aside, Colorado struggled to establish a ground game. They didn't have a great blocking situation, resulting in Sheduer actually having to carry his offense for the most part in the plays that he wasn't carrying a completely free defensive end on his back. And he did so by extending plays and throwing incredibly accurately, which was shown by his high completion percentage, right?
I will say his pocket presence in college was pretty damn good for the offensive line that he had. His offensive line was not very good at all. Respectfully, they were not. Did he throw some dimes? Yes, but I feel like a lot of them passes, a good amount of passes, he was getting bailed out by what's his name?
By his high completion percentage,
Travis
right?
Hunter.
That's all that it can mean, is that he was just
Like he was getting bailed the fuck out
Accurate
sometimes. And
passer.
it was crazy.
So you may be saying, oh, so the fans are the ones that actually watch the film. Also no. That was the frustrating part about this whole debate, is that his college film fell somewhere very much so in the middle of what both sides believed. When Colorado was in the driving seat and he was getting the ball off on time, he was pretty accurate, even though I think having 3 draftable wide receivers and one of them being a Heisman does make his job a lot easier as a
Technically, like, he almost tore that. I don't think this nigga knows how to play from behind. I don't think this nigga know how to play from behind. Like I think he only knows how to play with the lead and play in front. You know how they say like the Bengals, they have to play in front and play with the lead because their defense is so bad. I feel like when this nigga, like they're going down or they have a decent defense, he doesn't really know how to play in front and from behind and make those superhuman plays that everybody that like a Bryce Young or even a CJ Stroud. Like CJ Stroud against Georgia defense was one of the greatest games I ever fucking saw from a quarterback, and I saw that shit in person. I just don't think he could play from behind.
Quarterback, but all in all, he didn't always come up in big games because when things got tough, you could catch him trying to play Superman, where he would hold on to the ball too long,
he
looking
just
to extend
can't do
plays
it.
that
He doesn't have
probably should
Lamar
given up on
Jackson
and just thrown it
ability.
away. But he had enough talent that he should have probably gone in the 2nd to 3rd round, and that was before apparently bombing his interviews and not throwing at the combine, which dropped him. So while we'll truly never know what happened in those interviews, we got to see it unfold as in the draft, 5 quarterbacks over the course of 5 rounds went before him, with some head scratchers like Tyler Shuck, Jason Milroe, and most importantly, Dillon Gabriel, who was
How does that as Jason Milroe?
only a head scratcher because he was drafted in the 3rd round to the same team that would eventually draft Sanders in the 5th, the Cleveland Browns. Now,
Here's what I will say. I think that Dillon Gabriel is the safer pick. I think Sheduer has a higher ceiling, but I feel like Dillon Gabriel was a safer pick than Sheduer.
I know the Browns are known for creating stability at the quarterbacking position and being great place for young shot callers to get their bearing, and you can understand why fans of Sheduer would be mad that there might be somebody above him in the depth chart, as that would seem to break their typical mold of developing young talent into future NFL stars. But believe it or not, they were upset. And from the jump out of training camp, narratives were already starting to form. Pretty much, a piece of news wouldn't come out of camp unless it was.
Boy, I ain't never seen so many camp statistics. I've never seen them from anybody else but the Browns with Sheduer. Never in my life have I ever seen that these niggas was on here talking about, yeah, here's the camp stats for this, and that. Gang, why are we counting like camp touchdowns and shit? Like, this is when nobody even made the fucking team yet. It makes no sense.
Was hyping up
That's
Sheduer
how I know
or
this is
bringing
just
down
way too
Dillon,
much.
which only
was dumb
continued
as
to
hell.
fuel Shedeur's fans and haters the same way, as they both would try to twist the numbers coming out to fit whatever narrative they wanted reality to be. But the truth is, with raw numbers, we have no concept of what drills or plays were being worked.
Exactly.
Like, Dillon could have had a bad day while Sheduer was balling.
Like, I'm not gonna sit here and
That's true.
I'm never finna sit here and compare a nigga that has first team, second team reps to a nigga that's third string in practice squad. That shit just don't make sense.
But maybe they
It'll
were
never
trying
fucking
to
add up.
encourage both quarterbacks to make riskier throws, as seen in the videos, where Sheduer was just checking it down and throwing his shorter concepts. Even more importantly, we don't know how many passes by Gabriel were dropped, and it's just raw stats or kind of
They try to
garbage
make Gabriel
numbers
seem
that
so
will only
damn
mean
terrible
anything
at
to
the
the
game. It's
coaches
like, bro,
who know the context
he might not
behind
be
them.
that bad.
But online, it was just continuing to build the tension.
Yo, music
People
was
were
going on,
back and
bro.
forth. Narratives were
What's going
being
on, my guy?
constructed until the preseason came around and
How
all
you feeling?
eyes were turned to week 1 to see how Sheduer would fare against the Panthers. And it looked at first as if his detractors were right. His first 3 drives left a lot to be desired against the Panthers starters. Passes were dropped. Yes, Sheduer looked okay, but couldn't quite get a drive going, as his first 3 drives
I promise I've taken a shower. I promise I have.
But we did see some
taken
flashes.
a
Like,
shower.
look at this. He took off on 3rd and 9 to get the first down, and man, you could hear the stadium erupt like he just did something in a game that actually mattered. But luckily, when
But
his
then you
last
do
drive
shit
drive
like
ended with a
that.
punt. It was muffed, and he was able to get a nice gimme touchdown pass, which was just beautifully placed. And from here on out, he started to click. Yeah, he still had
I don't
some
think y'all will
issues,
ever
like putting
catch me going
himself
a
in
full day
bad
without a
position on
shower.
a 3rd and 13, but we already knew that when
If I
things
do
were
that,
do or
just know I
die,
didn't
he
have
was going
access
to
to a
hold on
shower.
to the ball a little bit too long, like kids hold on to teddy bears, and ultimately it led to what appeared to be a solid, but in my opinion,
that was a nice
slightly
catch.
overhyped first game, as he still showed many of the tendencies that people were worried about with him coming into the league. But maybe the most damning part, the most overlooked litmus test in all of this, was at the end of the game, Tyler Huntley came in and led a decisive touchdown drive, where when you watch this game, Huntley's accuracy, poise, ability to move the ball really showed a stark contrast of where Sheduer was and where he would need to be if he wanted to be a career backup. Regardless of this fact, the narratives went wild. Nike posted an ad with Sheduer after he put
I don't think I've ever seen a preseason game be so hyped up and cared about. I remember preseason, bro. Preseason, I've never seen a preseason game or NFL training camp be so hyped up for one player. Cam Ward got none of this type of coverage. None of this. I dead ass feel like everybody is definitely using this man's name for clicks and shit, and everybody's getting paid good off this shit. Good for them. Good for them. The rest of the shit is no. I think he's just very fucking average.
up
I think he's very fucking
138
average, bro.
yards on some of the Panthers' first-string defense in a preseason game, and it may sound like I'm picking fun at him, but I'm not. I've watched a lot of his interviews while covering him, and honestly, he's an easy guy to root for. He's pretty likable from what I've seen. But when we watched the following game against the Eagles, Gabriel was now at the helm, and it became clear to anybody with two
I don't care what nobody says. This game against this preseason against the Eagles was a really good preseason game. Gabriel looked nice. He wasn't doing dumb shit. The interception he threw, I will say, it was on him and the receivers because it was within the reach of both receivers and they just chose not to catch it, which left Makuba right there for the pick six.
brain cells that at the very least, this battle was going to be pretty tight with it slightly favoring Dylan. He came out faster, he put together a better first drive, and while yes, he threw a pick six, it was a well-placed pass to a rookie tight end who took his hands back thinking Dylan was trying to throw it past him. As on his 18 passing attempts, he came up with more completions and yards than Sheduer did. So, now coming into week 3, both quarterbacks had shown some promise, but a depth chart had to be made, and lo and behold, Gabriel was above Sanders once again. And when the game kicked off, I don't think people were ready for the shitstorm that was about to happen when it finished. And that was
because I think Sheduer played
Flacco
terribly.
getting the start, Gabriel getting the second string reps, Sheduer getting the third string reps, and Huntley getting a fourth quarter drive. Now you may ask, where is a
Good God, that nigga fucked up.
a fourth quarter drive?
That was. Now, if that was Ray Lewis, that would have been a hospital ball. If that was Ray Lewis, that would have been a hospital ball. I don't think that was that
Now
bad.
you may ask, where is the
That wasn't that
controversy?
bad.
What's the problem? And there really shouldn't have been any, except for the fact that Sheduer, in fact, did not have his best game. He got the first 5 drives of the second half, and to be frank, did not look good at all.
Yeah.
He was indecisive with the ball. He held it for too long, and it cost
see how
him
niggas wanna
drive after
change,
drive.
bro.
And his haters will try to use it to destroy him. Never mind the fact that there were still a lot of positives, like he continued to not give up turnovers, and he was able to keep the ball safe. And I think over the
thought
course
he
of his
did turn the ball over.
preseason, he looked a lot more agile in the backfield than I think a lot of people assumed he was going to. But the ghosts of his past were still clearly going to be
Trying
a
to be
problem,
Superman.
which, if the
Trying to be
Browns drafted
Superman.
him, was something that they expected to have to deal with and were trying to fix. So in my opinion, it's really just a non-story.
Hey, that was a cold play. That was a cold play. That was just a bad
But
drive.
on the other side, his supporters were having maybe the cope fest of the century. He's not getting a true shot, they would say, despite the fact that he literally got the better part of an entire game to open up the preseason. Half of his offensive linemen got cut the next day, they would say, despite the fact that even when he had good protection, he would still hold the ball too long and cause problems for them. No one would have done good with the talent on the field, they would say, as Huntley objectively did fine with the talent on the field in the final drive. And it just seemed like no one except a quiet few had any moderate takes, so here it is. is. Sheduer is a fine quarterback when he's on time and gets the ball out early and not needlessly extending plays. The Browns realized this.
I ain't gonna lie, I think he's terrible at extended plays. I think he's just like Caleb Williams in his rookie year, because Caleb at USC, this man was running around like a chicken with his head cut off, because he was able to extend plays and run around the pockets and make people miss tackles and shit. But doing this shit in the NFL, doing that shit in the NFL, damn near impossible, nigga. Damn near fucking impossible with how good these niggas really fucking are. You feel me?
They didn't use a premium pick to bring him in and get him repped as a developing quarterback on the third string with the third stringers. And the Rams game, in my opinion, was a clear case of developmental relapse. Now, the truth is, we all knew Sheduer's worst tendencies got even worse when you feel like he's trying to make a play happen.
Yes.
But because this is week 3 of the preseason and he's probably feeling a lot of pressure to make some magic, we got to see the worst of his tendencies rise, resulting in him going 3 of 6 for 14 yards and taking 5 sacks for 41 yards. But the sheer overreaction
5 sacks is fucking crazy.
Action by every media outlet, with half the people wanting this 5th rounder cut and the other ones wanting the 5th rounder to get all the reps with the first strings, might be one of the single biggest overreactions from a preseason game in the history of football. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This isn't an advertisement.
I'm be honest with y'all, bro. It's the preseason. It's the preseason. I personally am not the biggest Sheduer fan. I'm not. I've never been. I've never liked how they came out of high school, out of college, with all the hype around them and this and that. And everybody does it because it's Deion Sanders' son. But at the same time, I just don't feel like Sheduer Sanders I don't feel like, it's hard to say. I feel like if he would have went to Oregon and he would have did the exact same thing as Dylan Gabriel, I feel like them niggas are neck and neck with skill and shit like that. I think Gabriel is a safer option, but I think Sheduer has a higher ceiling. But personally, I think this whole offseason has been fucking, as he said, delusional. I think it's been extremely delusional, because since when did we start taking statistics seriously from training camp? We never did that. Nobody ever did that. They didn't do that shit for Cam Newton. They didn't do that for Bryce Young. They did that for CJ Stroud. They ain't never did that for one of these like upper echelon QBs, because it didn't fucking matter. It didn't fucking matter. You feel me? It didn't matter at all. And I hate that this is getting all the attention that it's getting, because I feel like it's just not that deep. Now, in the regular season, that's a different fucking story.